What message do you have to the Prince fans?
Just keep saying prayers for everyone, for the family.
There was no sign of this. This is just...
You know, everyone gets sick once in a while. We don't know. We're going to find out.
First Diddy party I went to was at Prince's house. So you want to go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security in the party.
The courtroom was tense. Sheila E. stepped forward, sharing a private confession from Prince that no one saw coming. And then, Diddy's reaction sent shockwaves through the room. Here's how it all unfolded.
But here's a twist. What if Prince had the cameras rolling the whole time? He was known for being private, calculated, and always in control. So what if he had incriminating footage and that's why he never attended the parties? Well, some folks definitely believe he may have kept the footage or even handed it over to someone before he passed. And now whispers are growing that his name could come up in court. Child, this trial is about to be one for the books, and I'm here for all of it.
Sheila E. isn't just any name tied to Prince. She's one of the few people who truly understood him, both as a person and an artist. Their relationship ran deeper than mere collaboration. Sheila wasn't just playing music with him. She was sharing a life filled with creative highs, intimate conversations, and personal truths. She became part of Prince's inner circle, a rarity for someone as guarded as he was. And remember, Prince wasn't just selective about his music. He was selective about people. If he invited you in close, it wasn't by accident. Their connection wasn't just obvious behind closed doors, it played out for the world to see. Sheila E. worked with Prince on some of his most iconic music, from their hit A Love Bizarre to her unforgettable performances during his tours. He didn't just feature her as a drummer or a singer, he elevated her to a co-star. Prince trusted Sheila to embody his vision and, in many ways, co-create it. She had this way of matching his energy on stage, blending perfectly into his eccentric and electrifying world, and outside of music, she was often seen alongside him at events, as if they shared an unspoken bond that didn't need public explanation. But here's where some eyebrows start to rise. Why is Sheila E. only revealing these so-called words from Prince now? That's the question her skeptics have asked, and it's a fair one. Prince has been gone for years, and throughout that time, Sheila has spoken openly about their friendship, their love of music, and their shared memories. So why wait? Why drop something this explosive in the middle of a courtroom drama involving Diddy, of all people? For some, the timing feels a little too perfect, maybe too calculated. Is this about her loyalty to Prince? Or is there another motive at play? Critics have raised concerns about how personal testimony like this can shape public perception in ways that sometimes overshadow fact. Still, Sheila's credibility can't just be dismissed because of the timing. Over the years, her words about Prince have often been consistent and backed by their shared history. The two weren't just collaborators, they relied on one another as friends. In his notoriously private world, Sheila was one of the few who got close enough to truly know his thoughts. She's spoken about their long talks and the personal advice he'd give her, revealing a side of Prince that the public rarely saw. Whether it was his philosophies on life or his guarded feelings about the industry, Sheila was often the one listening when Prince opened up. The legal world also considers testimony like this highly impactful. Courts, especially in cases involving high-profile individuals, often lean into personal anecdotes to provide context. And when someone as close as Sheila E. recounts a conversation with a figure as legendary as Prince, that carries weight. But the real kicker here is the content of her testimony. It wasn't general or vague, it was specific. She claims that Prince had something to say, particularly about Diddy. If Sheila E. is to be believed, Prince didn't just leave behind music and memories, he left behind opinions that might still echo today. Opinions tied to the very man, now sitting at the center of this courtroom storm. And that's where this puzzle starts to shift its pieces. With Sheila's credibility established, the focus turns sharply onto Diddy, his past, his present, and what he stands to lose depending on how the rest of this trial plays out. Things, as they say, are just
extremely challenging, but also remarkably empowering and healing for me. I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from abuse and fear. For me, the more I heal, the more I can remember. And the more I can remember, the more I will never forget.
Diddy's legal challenges have been making headlines for months, but the courtroom moment involving Sheila E's testimony feels like the pinnacle of mounting scrutiny. As much as Diddy's reputation once sparkled with success in business, music, and entertainment, it's now overshadowed by a swirl of lawsuits, allegations, and internal industry chatter. The specifics of the current case are complicated. Accusations of misconduct, harsh criticism of his business practices, and some claiming he's wielded his power unfairly in the industry for years. It's created a domino effect of lawsuits and public scandals that have stacked one after another, carving cracks into a once untouchable public persona. What's at stake for Diddy isn't just his place within the entertainment world, something he spent decades building, but his public legacy and financial empire. An unfavorable outcome in this courtroom could result in major financial losses, diminished respect from his industry peers, and a reputation that may not recover in the eyes of fans and collaborators. He's already facing fierce scrutiny on social media and in celebrity news cycles, where speculation moves faster than facts. Losing this case, or even appearing guilty, could ripple into everything tied to his name, whether it's his companies, brand partnerships, or his iconic status as a hip-hop mogul. Inside the courtroom, the tension is palpable, and Diddy himself has become one of the most closely watched figures in the trial. Eyewitness accounts from reporters describe a man under immense pressure. His usual swagger, a signature trait, is dialed back in favor of a more measured, quiet presence that borders on nervous. There have been moments where his control seems to falter. During cross-examinations, for example, some media reports noted him gripping the sides of his chair or rubbing his temples, his frustration barely disguised. At one point, a witness for the opposing side presented damning evidence, and those present say Diddy's clenched jaw and quick side glances seem to speak volumes. Observers have also keyed in on his reactions, carefully treating them like puzzle pieces that could hint at how confident or desperate he feels about the case's trajectory. It's not just his lawyers under the microscope, it's him. Speculation over his mood and mannerisms has dominated the celebrity blogosphere. People are dissecting not just the facts, but Diddy's body language, like when he reportedly rolled his eyes and shrugged at a line of questioning he clearly wanted to dismiss. Moments like that only fuel public curiosity about whether his composure is cracking under the weight of what's at risk. And then there's the wild card, Sheila E's testimony. From the beginning of the trial, sources close to the case teased that she might have something shocking to say, a piece of information tied to the one person who always seemed untouchable, Prince. By the time whispers of her taking the stand turned into reality, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. With the words of a late legend, delivered through someone who arguably knew him best, utterly shattered Diddy's defense, that's what people are now asking. And there's a grim fascination with how much damage her testimony could cause. When Sheila E finally stepped up to testify, it was no ordinary moment. Her name alone added weight to the proceedings, but it was the idea of her speaking on behalf of Prince that froze the room. This wasn't just some random statement from an outsider. It was personal. It was unexpected. And it was possibly devastating. By now, the stage was fully set, the stakes towering high, and all focus shifted to one pivotal question. What was Sheila about to reveal, and how would it land on Diddy? The next part of the trial was about to leave everyone stunned.
Go to Prince's house to the Diddy party where Tyrese is performing and Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher are swinging on swings. That is what's happening on the other side of the wall. And so the one thing that makes this party different than a Jamie Foxx party or any other celebrity party that wrangles a bunch of young women or guys or whatever too, is that Diddy didn't let you bring your security in the party.
But here's the twist. What if Prince had the cameras rolling the whole time? He was known for being private, calculated, and always in control. So what if he had incriminating footage and that's why he never attended the parties? Well, some folks definitely believe he may have kept the footage or even handed it over to someone before before he passed, and now whispers are growing that his name could come up in court. Child, this trial is about to be one for the books, and I'm here for all of it. Okay, of course we already have a few names that came up during the jury selection, and some of them are people we never really expected to make the cut, like Michelle Williams, Robert Downey Jr., Mike Myers, and Lauren London. But then there are names we definitely expected to come up, like Cassie, who filed the first lawsuit. Remember, Cassie said in her lawsuit that a lot of things that happened to her were witnessed by Diddy's staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment and Diddy's related businesses, but no one dared to speak up. In fact, these assistants were the ones tasked with the responsibility of taking gifts to Cassie after a DV incident. And Cassie even said in the lawsuit that the assistants were also the ones who would help to set up the freak-offs where everything took place, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. Cassie even said in the lawsuit that after one of the incidents, Diddy's head of security and assistant saw her and they both began to cry. So we expect a lot of these staff members to be summoned. Anywho, Harve Pierre, who was implicated in a lawsuit against Diddy filed by a Jane Doe, also made the cut. She claimed Harve Pierre convinced her to fly from Detroit to New Jersey, where she was allegedly SA'd by him and Diddy. Other than Harve, Young Miami, who was on Diddy's payroll and was allegedly even a transporter of substances, was also mentioned in the jury selection process. Someone else on the list is Dallas Austin. And all I could gather is that the producer was a childhood friend of Kim Porter, Diddy's late wife, who became a point of conversation as people speculated if Diddy had something to do with her sudden death. There's also Lorianne Gibson, who filed a complaint about Diddy to the police back in 2007, claiming Diddy picked up a chair, threatening her on the set of MTV's Making the Band. Aubrey O'Day was also mentioned, but she has been outspoken in her support for Cassie going public with her allegations against Diddy, and she also accused him of making his own inappropriate advances towards her. Former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard also made the cut, but we also know that she previously sued Diddy, accusing him of SA. The suit accused Diddy of beginning his alleged tirade when she began filming MTV's Making the Band.
Yo, what? Yo, how many? Well, they said it's mad lawsuits and this is all these people gonna be on the stand. Yo,
The room fell silent the moment Sheila E took the stand. Her presence alone carried gravity. Poised but focused, she sat upright, calm, measured, but with an air of solemnity that everyone in the courtroom felt. This wasn't just another celebrity making an appearance in a high-profile case. This was someone stepping forward to deliver what many believed could be a turning point in the trial. And it wasn't just her words that mattered, it was who they came from. The weight of her testimony wasn't about fame, it was about legacy. And legacy in this instance belonged to Prince. Reporters at the press bench leaned forward with pens pressed against notepads, while others instinctively started recording audio on their phones. Several members of the public gallery strained to hear, sitting at the edge of their seats. Even the judge, known for his stoic courtroom presence, appeared more engaged than usual. It was as if the entire room collectively understood that what was about to be said might shift the course of the entire trial. Sheila began slowly. Her tone was soft but unwavering. Careful, as though revisiting a sacred memory, she spoke of her bond with Prince, a man she called a genius, a brother, a guardian of artistic purity. She described how fiercely he protected his thoughts and how rare it was for him to share opinions about others in the music industry. Prince, she emphasized, was not the type to gossip. If he spoke critically of someone, it wasn't born out of jealousy or rivalry. It was conviction. And then, the room seemed to tighten with tension as she transitioned. She told the court that in one of their final conversations, a private, deeply personal exchange, Prince confided in her. It was a quiet warning. Not shouted, not dramatic, but deliberate, and loaded with meaning. He told me, she said, voice trembling slightly, watch people like him. There was a gasp. Audible. In court. No name was mentioned. But no one needed clarification. All eyes turned instinctively toward Diddy, seated across from her, his expression tight. He shifted slightly in his chair, jaw clenched. The ripple through. The courtroom was instant and undeniable. It felt like a bolt of lightning had struck the heart of the proceedings. Sheila continued, choosing her words carefully, each syllable landing with the weight of history. Prince warned me about the influence that prioritizes money, image, and control over truth and artistry. He believed it was destroying the foundation artists like him had spent lifetimes building. He called it a poison. And he feared what it was doing to the soul of music. There was no dramatization in her delivery, no forced emotion, just a quiet storm of truth, or what she claimed was truth, that felt deeply personal. It wasn't just what she said, it was who she was quoting. Prince, a man known for never compromising, a symbol of musical integrity, had allegedly expressed concern about Diddy, a titan of industry now under fire. To hear that warning now, posthumously, through the voice of someone who knew him intimately, felt like more than testimony. It felt like prophecy. The energy in the courtroom shifted. No longer was this just about contracts, business practices, or allegations. It became about something much bigger: legacy, influence, truth. Sheila's words cut through the room with surgical precision. She didn't embellish. She didn't perform. She simply recounted. And in doing so, it felt as though the ghost of Prince had walked into the courtroom and pointed a finger. Diddy's legal team exchanged glances, visibly rattled. Their star client, once a man known for controlling the narrative, was now the subject of a chilling accusation from beyond the grave. And as the courtroom sat in stunned silence, only one thought echoed: what if Prince was right? The fallout of Sheila E.'s testimony had just begun, but the damage, both personal and symbolic, was already undeniable.
Expect a bunch of other names to come up during the trial, but like I said, Prince was not on my bingo card, and especially not about him allegedly having a tape on Diddy. Makes me wonder, could this have had anything to do with Prince's death? Could this be the deep dark secret about his death, y'all? Well, we know that Prince knew a few days before his death that it was the end of the road for him, and he even posted a picture of himself which contained a since deleted message: just when you thought you were safe. In fact, during his final appearance at a party at Paisley Park just after his reported treatment and days before his death, Prince reportedly told attendees, wait a few days before you waste any prayers. And just like he had predicted, Prince died at age 57 after being found unresponsive at his estate in Minnesota. At the time, health officials determined Prince died of an accidental fentanyl OD after unknowingly taking counterfeit Vicodin laced with the highly potent synthetic opioid. But it never made sense that clean-living Prince died of an OD.
Did he have health problems?
That I don't know, right? What I know is that he was really health conscious.
Right.
He was a vegan. He didn't abuse alcohol. I didn't know of him abusing drugs. He worked out, so, that also really concerned me because it made me think that, wow, so you mean you do all these things to take care of yourself and you die so young?
So the thing about Prince is that he fought with people a lot before he died, especially over ownership of and control over his music. He waged a career-long battle against any company that he felt stood in the way of artists' rights and money. And allegedly, he paid the ultimate price for that: death. Whether Warner Brothers was involved or not with having him unalived is still up for debate, but a lot of his fans definitely think that they were involved in his death. See, he was signed to Warner Music in 1977 when he was just 18, and even though the album he released between 1978 and 1981 did not do that well, he was kept on the label, as he was regarded as a musician that reflected well on Warner, which at the time was a company that appeared to invest long-term in serious talent. In 1982, 1 year after MTV launched, Prince released more music, and he went top 10 in the US for the first time, and became part of a new breed of musicians who understood the power of the music video as a way to market an artist and build their own iconography and mythology. At this point, fans were copying his look, and by 1984, with the release of Purple Rain, he was arguably the biggest and certainly the most exciting pop star on the planet. But it reached a point where Prince didn't like how Warner owned and controlled his name, as well as any music released under that name. He even dramatically changed his name to that of a symbol and was referred to as Symbol, Squiggle, or the artist formerly known as Prince. And he was actually pretty vocal about what was happening.
Sheila E. took the stand, and though she spoke with grace, the impact was anything but gentle. Across the courtroom, Diddy sat rigid, his spine straight, his hands folded carefully in front of him. Dressed in a custom-tailored suit, clean lines, expensive fabric, signature flair, he looked every bit the mogul the world had come to recognize. But beneath that polished surface, something was shifting. His face, usually confident and composed, was locked into what some described as a calculated, calm, not fake, but rehearsed, studied. He wore a faint smirk when Sheila entered, as if already bracing for a show. But the air in the courtroom was too thick with tension to ignore, and even Diddy's legendary composure wasn't bulletproof. He adjusted his tie once, then again, shifted in his seat, glanced quickly at his legal team. Small things, but in a room this charged, every movement screamed louder than words. The cameras weren't allowed inside, but the reporters were. And they noticed everything. As Sheila began recounting her connection with Prince, how deep their relationship ran, how honest their private conversations were, Diddy held his posture. He leaned back slightly, crossing one leg over the other, trying to maintain that image of untouchable cool. But when she transitioned into the alleged words Prince had spoken, everything changed. He told me, "Watch people like him." Her voice didn't crack. It didn't tremble. It cut. Clean, sharp, unflinching. And suddenly the chill in the room was palpable. Multiple eyewitnesses reported seeing Diddy's smirk vanish instantly. His lips drew into a tight line and his brows furrowed. His shoulders stiffened, and most noticeably, he leaned forward ever so slightly, as though physically bracing for impact. It wasn't a collapse, it was a defense mechanism. A witness seated just a few feet from him claimed they heard a faint sound escape his lips, a chuckle, but not the kind that signals humor, more like the quiet, uneasy reaction of someone caught off guard. Whether it was disbelief, annoyance, or something darker, no one could say. But everyone felt it. Sheila continued. She spoke of a poison Prince saw spreading through the music industry, a threat not just to art, but to the souls of those creating it. And as those words landed, Diddy's mask began to crack. He broke eye contact with Sheila for the first time, looked down, then started fidgeting with a pen that had been lying untouched on the table in front of him. He twisted it, clicked it once. Then again, small things, but in a man known for control, they were glaring. A few soft murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Not from what Sheila said, but from what Diddy didn't. He didn't speak. He didn't object. He didn't even look up. For a moment, he seemed cornered. Legal analysts watching from the overflow room took immediate notice. One later said, "That wasn't just discomfort, that was visible tension. And in a trial like this, that tension doesn't just stay in the courtroom, it spreads. Because here's the truth. In the court of law, facts matter. But in the court of public opinion, perception is everything." And this was perception's battlefield. Some believe Diddy's reaction was a moment of vulnerability, a crack in the carefully sculpted image of a man always in control. Others think it was calculated. A strategic display meant to show he was human, affected, even unfairly targeted. But the ambiguity is what made it powerful. Why did he react that way? What did it mean? Did it confirm something? Or was it all part of the act? One thing was clear. Sheila E's testimony didn't just rattle the room, it rattled him. And for someone as image-conscious, brand-driven, and publicly scrutinized as Diddy, those few seconds could echo far beyond this trial. Because in that courtroom, truth and performance collided. And for once, it wasn't Diddy who was directing the show.
Today's cross-examination focusing heavily on Ventura's allegation that Combs raped her in 2018 after they had ended their relationship, which he denies. The defense showing text messages between the former couple the day after the alleged rape, including one in which Ventura sent a heart emoji to Combs. Combs' team also trying to poke holes in Ventura's timeline.
That is not the gotcha moment that defense attorneys think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, witnesses are not great on specific dates, particularly when they go back years ago.
The defense also pointing to a text exchange between Ventura and Combs from 2012, in which she wrote, "I don't want to freak off for the last time. I want it to be the first time for the rest of our lives." At times today, the defense appeared to struggle to maintain momentum, facing frequent objections by prosecutors and regularly stopping Ventura's questioning to whisper together. Combs appeared to be actively involved, passing his lawyers notes. In a striking exchange with Combs' lawyers, Ventura's saying, despite it all, "I don't hate him. I have love for the past and what it was."
We also saw musician Dawn Richard take the stand. She said that she witnessed Combs be violent with Ventura over the course of their relationship. I just want to remind everyone that Combs denies all of the allegations against him. Back to you.
Sheila E's courtroom testimony wasn't just a moment. It was a bombshell that completely reframed the narrative. Her connection to Prince was already well documented, but when she claimed he had explicitly warned her about Diddy's influence, it caught the courtroom off guard. The phrase, "watch people like him," as she recounted, was a chilling pivot point. Prince wasn't someone who used words lightly, and for him to directly identify Diddy as a threat or at least emblematic, of one carried a kind of weight you just couldn't ignore. Whether or not the jury will see it as credible is an open question, but in the court of public opinion, it's already making waves. Diddy's reaction didn't help. His usual, composed, business-savvy image took a hit in real time. The visible tension in his body and that fleeting moment of discomfort were exactly the types of cracks that critics and analysts latch onto. It wasn't an explosion or an outburst, but it didn't need to be. In a setting like this, even the smallest emotional breaks are magnified, dissected, and interpreted. And this is where the fallout starts to grow. For some, it's a moment that humanizes him, making him seem vulnerable in a way the public seldom sees. For others, it's a sign that Sheila's testimony struck deeper than Diddy expected, and that his response validates her words more than any follow-up could. The timing couldn't be worse for someone in Diddy's position. Recently, his public standing has been under scrutiny thanks to a slew of controversies and allegations, some still playing out on multiple legal fronts. While this testimony doesn't directly tie into all of those claims, the overall narrative it builds could still spell trouble. Legal experts say that although Sheila's words might not be hard evidence, they could sway the jury emotionally, especially given Prince's almost mythical standing in popular culture. One analyst speculated that the mention of Prince alone brings an intangible credibility, because who doubts Prince? That effect, combined with Sheila E's calm, direct demeanor, could land like a 1-2 punch in the jury's mind. But there's another layer: the public. Sheila E's words hit outside the courtroom too. Fans of Prince, still fiercely protective of his legacy, took to social media almost immediately after reports of her testimony emerged. Statements like "Prince knew all along" and "Diddy was never about the art" began trending, sparking debates that could shift how the entertainment world views this case. This isn't just about a legal battle anymore, it's about reputation, legacy, and symbolism. Prince wasn't there to defend his words, but through Sheila, his opinions felt alive again, echoing into spaces Diddy might not have anticipated. As for the jury, the implications couldn't be clearer. When they walk into deliberations, Sheila's testimony and Diddy's reaction will be fresh in their minds. Was her recounting a reflection of truth, or a weaponized memory timed to inflict maximum damage? And if it was, does it matter? Jurors are human, after all. And personal testimony, especially words attributed to someone as influential as Prince, has the power to stick, even if it technically leans on emotions more than cold, hard evidence. In the meantime, the media frenzy has only intensified. In real time, outlets are replaying Sheila's testimony and analyzing every detail of Diddy's response. Some are calling it the moment that changed everything in the trial. Others are more measured, reminding the public that testimony, no matter how shocking, has to be weighed against the broader case. But the focus is already shifting to what happens next. Will Diddy's team counter this narrative, or has Sheila's bombshell testimony sealed the social verdict? Whatever comes, one thing is certain: this case has only gotten messier, and now Prince's legacy is part of the story.
In her final day on the stand, Cassie Ventura spoke again about the day Combs brutally beat her in a hotel hallway in 2016. Ventura, who is potentially days away from giving birth, testifying that Combs was blackout at the time of the assault from drugs and alcohol. At one point, reading a text she sent him after the violent attack: "I am not a rag doll. I am someone's child." Following 20 hours of testimony this week, her attorney Douglas Wigdor speaking outside the courthouse, reading a statement from Ventura.
I hope that my testimony has given strength and a voice to other survivors and can help others who have suffered to speak up and also heal from abuse and fear.
Celebrity culture is built on image, but what happens when legacy collides with reputation? Sheila E. brought Prince's words to life in a courtroom bound by legal standards, but fueled by public perception. Her testimony added new questions too. Diddy's already complicated narrative, and forced us to consider just how much weight a voice from the past can still hold in the world of entertainment. Reputations can shatter in real time, but legacies like Prince's seem unshakable. It leaves us wondering, can Diddy's empire survive this storm? Or is this the moment it begins to crumble? We'll be watching what happens.